Hi, I'm Tom Henriksen from the DevOps Online Summit. Today, I am joined by Andy Block, a distinguished architect at Red Hat. Andy, introduce yourself to the people here at the DevOps Online Summit.
Hey everyone, my name is Andy Block, as Tom mentioned. I'm a distinguished architect at Red Hat, and I work with customers, big and small, primarily on containerization and continuous integration and continuous delivery. And this goes everything from your infrastructure side, but also in your application side. And
so you're covering all aspects, huh, Andy?
Everything.
Yes. And Andy is in an office too, which is nice to see. We talk to a lot of people who are remote still, but it's good to see some things are working in there.
The whiteboard here, you just can't get that at home. It's that smell. And the question of, will the marker work?
Yes. Yeah, I always liked, there was one place I worked for a while, and it seemed like we would have meetings in almost every room, and all the markers were dry. It was like, I don't know what happened.
Just imagine when the offices started to reopen, how dry those markers are.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. That is right. So, Andy, that is great. You want to talk to us, though, today about GitOps security. So that's one thing you want to cover. So why don't you start us off with why security is so important to GitOps? Well,
importantly is just GitOps in general. GitOps is becoming incredibly important, incredibly powerful, and relevant to many organizations. And what you're doing by implementing GitOps is you're taking the control that you have as a person who might have made changes to your infrastructure or applications and basically giving the keys to the kingdom to an automated system. You're saying that your GitOps engine is going to make changes. And if you don't apply the appropriate security boundaries and limitations, you're basically opening up Pandora's box to changes that can occur in your environment that can cause so many problems, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine you've probably, as you work with customers, they probably open that door, but don't really think about what's behind it, do they?
They don't, because they like, oh, GitOps is awesome. And then I come in there and say, have you thought about this? Oh, and then we have some long conversations, and this really just starts emphasizing this whole concept of DevSecOps, because you're then bringing your security team at the forefront of the conversation, understand how security controls are currently implemented in a non-GitOps world and how they can be modeled for GitOps.
Yeah, that's important, I think, too, as you mentioned, Andy, that we, like in DevSecOps, we need to bring that security team to the table as opposed to the kind of the old way of thinking like, oh, let's develop something and then, hey, let's call security. It's almost done.
Over and over, I work with customers who have gone down that model. They're ready to go to production. They have this wonderful release. They have to get that final stamp of approval from the security team, and they go, oh, we're going to have to delay our release because we didn't talk to someone, we didn't get approval, you name it.
Yeah, that is so true. So important to do that. So, Andy, what are the steps at securing our GitOps implementation?
The first one is going to be understanding who has control to push changes to that common Git repository and what level of access. So you want to typically have those who are typically maintainers of that repository, but also contributors. So I work with a lot of folks, especially some junior folks who want to get involved in GitOps. But we don't, since they're just getting started, we don't want to give them that key to the kingdom, because you don't let 16-year-old Johnny go ahead and drive the Mercedes. You go ahead and you give him the tricycle or the Ford Focus, the little economy cars, and just give them a certain level of access. So you typically will allow them to still make changes to the repository, but have it be reviewed first, so that someone who's more senior might have more understanding of the implications of the change, might be able to review that and then accept it so that it can be applied. The next step, once you've gone ahead and you've given control to the repository, is what access does your GitOps engine have on your environment? Do you want to limit the amount of access? You don't want to necessarily give every GitOps tool access to touch production. You might only want to have the GitOps tool only touch development or lower environments, as well as if you go ahead and you give access to certain environments, only give it a subset of actions that it needs to perform its task, so it doesn't unfortunately affect other environments or other processes.
So it's kind of it sounds like it needs to be somewhat of an incremental approach as you probably go into an organization. You can't just push it all at stage one, and you kind of have to step into it.
It's just emphasizing the agile methodology. You go ahead and you have slight incremental changes and you review those changes. Many organizations, I go ahead and provide kind of this nice safe area. I say, go ahead and blow this up. It won't affect anything. And then start to see how the changes you're going to be applying will affect the entire system moving forward. And as you start moving towards production, you'll have a fully certified process that's going to not only have security teams involved, but have your team confident that it's going to meet the organizational requirements, but also your team's requirements.
Yeah, that's probably important too, to kind of tease out, or at least get a good conversation, or maybe many conversations about what those requirements are, right?
What I try to emphasize is don't try to what I call waterfall
the
entire approach. You're not going to be able to get all the answers right the first time. Start somewhere, make a goal, reach that goal, reassess where you're at, and then go to the next goal.
Yeah, keep moving forward. So, Andy, you talked about a few of these, but what are some of the big pitfalls of securing our GitOps implementation?
Secrets management. That's the biggest problem, because one of the benefits is there's 20 different tools to go ahead and secure your GitOps process. And the question is, Andy, what tool do I use? It depends. It depends, because it depends what systems may already be inside your enterprise, because many tools like HashiCorp Vault, CyberArk Conjure, you name it, have their own secrets management tools that an organization may already have. You can implement that inside your GitOps process. And then when you're thinking about that, does the tool itself that is already in your enterprise, does it suffice to the requirements that you're going to need moving forward? It might be great for how you're doing things today, but in the GitOps world, does it? Fortunately, many of these enterprise tools that I mentioned already do have those functions and features.
Yeah, that's kind of reminds me, I know, as you talk about kind of how this GitOps security works, it reminds me of things in, like, for instance, like the DevOps world. People want to buy one tool to just give me DevOps. Same thing I'm sure goes with GitOps, is that you kind of have to, it depends, and see what's there already, don't you?
Yeah, I mentioned that car analogy before. And you might go ahead and you might buy the Mercedes-Benz, which has a little bit of everything, but I might want different floor mats, because maybe Mercedes doesn't know how to protect my stuff in the northern part of the US, where you're going to track in 8 feet of snow in the winter. They might, but I might want to go ahead to another vendor who might be able to provide certain solutions.
Yeah, that's important. And I think too, as you mentioned too, when we make a change like this, we want to kind of incorporate what we already have. We don't want to reinvent the whole wheel, right?
No, because your organization has made investments over many years. Why throw that out the window? Your executives that higher up are going to question your thought process, because not every team in your organization is going to be adopting DevOps immediately. So you still need to support them, and they need to be able to use the tools successfully that they've done and used previously.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andy. That's a very good point. So what do you say is the most important aspect of security for GitOps?
As I just mentioned before, just transparency. Transparency through the entire process. If you're unable to determine exactly what you're securing and how you secure it, and be able to show that to your organizational leaders, you're never going to get adoption. That's one of the biggest challenges and biggest tasks you need to think about.
That's good. Yeah, that transparency is so important. Andy, we really appreciate you sharing a lot about security for GitOps. Any closing thoughts?
I'll just continue to reemphasize incremental changes. Always make sure that you look at how you're working today, where you want to go tomorrow, and achieve milestones that are attainable. Don't just try to boil the ocean. Try to work incrementally, make challenges, but also celebrate those successes. Your organization is going and taking a new paradigm, and it's going to be rocky. It's going to have your peaks and your valleys. Celebrate the valleys, but celebrate your peaks, learn from your valleys, and then just keep moving forward from there.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I know I do that myself sometimes, is I don't celebrate those small wins. Those are important, as you mentioned, especially when you're doing a change in an organization. You got to celebrate that. For the leaders, but also for the people involved that put in that hard work. So very good. Thank you so much, Andy. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On behalf of Andy Block, I am Tom Hendrickson for the DevOps Online Summit.